I am thinking all those poor women at the college planning night, they are missing a great night here tonight, right? So good. Donna and Sonu, awesome. And Laura. So Laura Eboli, our next speaker, I know through our mutual friend Margot, so met years ago, and over the years we would kind of pop in and out of each other's lives. And when Everyday Deep started, I knew that Laura had to be a speaker. You'll find that she's hilarious, so we're going to cover another part of the heart here. Laura, on your bio you wrote, Laura says she loves life and tries to find humor in every situation, even when she shouldn't. So that, right? That kind of sets it up right there. So I don't want to step on that. So welcome, Laura Eboli.
Two daughters, Elizabeth and Lauren, who are now in college, and my husband Tom, and I think we're quite a striking family. I don't know, people seem to look at us when we walk down the street, so I don't know what it is. It must be our looks. So anyway, when Dale asked me a few months ago, I had this moment a few months ago. Can you hear me on?
Nice there?
Can you hear me? I mean, it's okay if you can't. You're not missing it. So it was 10:30 at night, and can you picture this? I'm walking out of a bar, and you know how it's been. It's been freezing cold, and I'm shaking, so I zip up my jacket, and I put my hood up, and I'm running to my car, and I'm just, it's miserable, it's cold, and I jump in, and I start my car, and all of a sudden my favorite song comes blasting on the radio, and I just, at that moment, I just yelled, "I love life!" I mean, it was just like a few swear words in there, but it was just so happy in that moment. And it was like all my happiness stars were perfectly aligned. I had just been doing one of my favorite things on earth, followed by a FEB song, and despite the cold and the depressing week and the crazy work I had, I was just so happy in that moment. And it made me think, it's like, I know so many people who really never experienced that happiness. And that made me a little sad. But then I'm like, I'm good. So I just finished belting out my song and I drove home. So when Dale asked me to do this about Heart Start, I immediately thought of that moment. And the answer to what starts my heart is fun. And like everything that ultimately shapes our world, it starts with my childhood. So I truly believe that my zest for life is a direct result of the fact that I grew up surrounded by death. But like these people who had really bad experiences, mine was a little bit different. I was raised in the small river town of Lakin, Illinois, which is about 2 hours from here, 2,000 people, and I was the only girl sandwiched between two brothers. And I came from one of those generational families. I grew up in the same house that my grandfather grew up in, and my dad grew up in, and I grew up in. And now my cousin bought it, and now his kids are being raised in it. So we're the Lenz family. There's a whole lot of Lenz going on in that house. And all the men worked for our family business, our funeral home. So my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my uncle, and my dad were all undertakers. So it all started in 1896 when my family began Lenz Brothers Furniture and Undertaking. I know, you're thinking, who doesn't want to shop there? It's like the Amazon of undertaking and furniture. So a short history lesson though, because furniture and funeral homes originally went together. So undertakers, for the furniture business, they were casket makers. And in that time, there wasn't a lot of options in the world of casket. It was like called a fiddle casket, which looked like a glorified violin case. And so people wanted something nicer. They went to the cabinet makers, they made them, and then they kind of merged from there. So this was our funeral home, and my grandparents lived 2 blocks from me. So I was there all the time. As a kid, there was no place cooler or scarier than our funeral home. First, you have to understand the layout of the house. In the basement was the embalming room where they prepared the bodies. And down the hall from that was a casket room where you had all the caskets. And then across from that was a rec room where we had parties. That makes sense, right? So we had a bar, we had a slot machine as a cool when you were a kid, we had a player piano, and we would hang out there, and my grandparents would have parties down there. You go up the stairs, and on the first floor was the office, which to me was the creepiest room in the house. It had all these dead relatives hanging on the wall. There's my dad, who's not creepy, but the rest of them were. And then on that floor were two really long chapels where the services were held. And you go upstairs, that was where my grandparents lived. So they lived on the second floor of the funeral home. And they had, living room, dining room. It was like any home. 2 bedrooms, kitchen, and it was lovely. So when I would sleep there, and I did all the time, my bedroom was at the top of the stairs, and if there was someone, a funeral the next day, the casket was basically at the bottom of the stairs. So I was afraid to sleep in my own house, but at the funeral home, forget about it. I would be sleeping in the bed, the clock, they had a grandfather clock, creepy that is. It would strike midnight, I'd have the covers over my head. I was just convinced that body was gonna walk up the stairs and grab me. And I thought about it all the time. I had a recurrent dream that I was always looking at the casket, and it's always an old man, and he would grab me and he would hold me up over his head, and I'd be kicking and I'd be screaming, and my family could never ever get to me, or that there was a glass casket and they were throwing dirt on me. So that was, your usual childhood dream. Another thing that scared the pants off of me is my grandma would ask me to go down to the basement to the refrigerator to get ice cream. And the refrigerator was right across from the embalming room. So this wasn't the time of pampered children when your parents would say, "Oh, I'll go with you." Or my brothers weren't gonna help me. No, I was on my own. So I'd have to go down 2 flights of stairs, and they were dark, and then I'd get to the refrigerator, and the embalming room door would or would not be open, and then I would grab my ice cream and I'd run for my life, or so it seemed, and get back upstairs, or I had to take the elevator. The elevator, it was so creepy. It was designed to easily move bodies and caskets between floors. So it had doors on either side, and 2 walls, and no ceiling. So when you're in the basement on the elevator, you could look up and you could see the first floor and the second floor door just floating in the air, and then the attic. And when it went, the whole house would hum and it would vibrate. So you always knew when a body was coming in the house, whether it was 2 a.m. or 2 p.m., you just knew. And one time my grandfather was in the elevator, and it didn't stop at the top. It just cracked all the plaster, and now I have a whole Willy Wonka fear. It's not it's gonna go to the ground, it's gonna shoot out the roof. So you're probably thinking, wow, this talk about death when you're here to hear about the heart. So because this home that was centered around death was filled with so much life. And my family was so respectful of everyone who came in there and the dead. But again, it was a home, and as my dad once said, you have to have a sense of humor to be in this business. So imagine, hide and seek in a funeral home. The lights are off, everything is pitch black. We were looking for my uncle one time, and we were going around everything. We finally opened the elevator door, and he jumps down from the top of it and just scares the pants off of us. Or, playing Easter egg hunt in the chapel, where there may or may not be a casket, but it's Easter and it's our home, so that's how it went. And everywhere, we had every family party there. My cousins and I played red light, green light, and go, go, go in the chapel. As a kid, it was just open rooms and places to play, and it was amazing. And in the rec room, we pushed caskets out of the way in the basement and played with crutches and wheelchairs, because my family also, before there was public ambulances, they were the ambulance people. So we would have all, crutches were so cool when you were little, right? And my family, and when we were sick or my parents were going out of town, this really was a place where we would stay and were taken care of and were loved. It was like any grandparent's home, except one dark twist. And my family is not what you would imagine from a bunch of undertakers. my grandfather, this is him, and that is not my grandmother. But he would put on we'd go out to restaurants and we'd go to the country club, and he'd put on a wig and he would start dancing in the middle of in the middle of the restaurant, and everyone would be so embarrassed, but I thought it was the coolest thing and the funniest thing ever. And as I'm evaluating this, I kind of do the same thing myself. And so the apple really doesn't fall far from the tree. And my dad, he was the first person to drive a motorcycle through the local tavern. He once stole a fire truck, and then we had to buy it, so we owned a fire truck. My uncle drove like a bat out of hell and crashed his motorcycle going over 100 miles an hour and lived. And me, I was born on May 30th, or traditional Memorial Day. So back before Memorial Day was a 3-day weekend, it was called Traditional Memorial Day. And so I thought that was so special because it was Lynn's memorial home. I was born on Memorial Day. And the other thing that was really, really special about that was it was the one day of the year the mausoleum was open. Talk about full circle. Memorial home, Memorial Day, and my birthday mausoleum. I mean, come on. I can't believe it. My parents used to take me there as a child on my birthday. So much cheaper than Chuck E. Cheese. But through all these stories and all these memories, I think the one thing I took away is that you need to enjoy life. And you can't take life yourself too serious, because tomorrow, who knows? Which is my very, very, very lengthy explanation of why I'm a proactive seeker of fun. As we all know, fun and laughter all have all kinds of benefits. And just as importantly, they keep you young. And look at me, I'm 85 years old. So I don't know, I think I look pretty good for my age. So to help you feel and look your best, I created the Laura Eboli rules of fun and happiness. Because the two go hand in hand. And to me, they're kind of like, you know, an Elle's 4 favorite food groups: candy, candy canes, candy corn, and syrup. And by the way, that's my brother, and that's my babysitter, Haha, who took care of me when I was a child. So rule number 1 is find your fun trigger. This is about identifying what it is that really fills you up, that thing that gives you an afterglow that you can talk about for weeks to come. You know, maybe for some of you it's knitting, you go to a convention, or Jello wrestling. For me, there's several things. Music and travel are high on my list, but my absolute favorite thing to do is to go see Elvis impersonators. I love them. So this is J. Elvis, he was my first. And there have been plenty since. Because I know if I go see an Elvis impersonator, there's going to be happiness from ear to ear. It's not that I love Elvis, it's I love the utter cheesiness of an Elvis impersonator. Thin or fat, good or bad, I just know I'm going to have a good time, I'm going to know every song, I'm going to talk to people, I'm going to be on the dance floor, I'm going to embarrass myself and leave happy. In fact, this Elvis obsession has seeped into the rest of my life, which leads me to my next rule. Surround yourself with fun. Okay, I have a lot of crap in my house, and for my friends here, they can testify to this. I blame my parents because they're borderline hoarders and collectors, but we do have interesting things. So, I have an Elvis collection, which Dale here has contributed to. I have my Mona Lisa that hangs over my couch in my living room. I have Kiss dolls on the top of my cabinets. And I always like to have music playing, so I try to create an environment that's fun, that makes me feel happy, and that my friends can come and enjoy. And how can you be sad when you're looking at the Mona Lisa every time you walk into your living room? Number 3, and I think this is the most important rule of all, always embarrass your friends. I'm not going to say, but it was a memorable night for some of us. Rule number 4, elevate your fun playing field. So to assure a good time, my friends and I have a secret weapon, and it's our doll, Casserole Jean. So, my friend Debbie got this doll, and we started taking her out with us. And then my friend Debbie invented a thing called leg shots, where we take the doll's leg off, and everybody drinks out of it. And I gotta tell you, you'd be surprised how many people you can get to do that. And it brings everyone together. And but now she's down to one leg, so we're really protective. And we tried arm shots, and you just really can't get much in the arm. And we tried body cavity shots, but all the liquid disappears. So we're protecting that. But we've taken her, we've traveled with her. She's spiced up wedding receptions. She's ridden a camel in Dubai. She's been on a TV shoot in Nebraska, safaried in Africa, and she's 93% responsible for my friend meeting her husband. So yeah, it works. Okay, rule number 4, or 5. Be a continual fun seeker. Fun just doesn't fall in your lap, you need to find it. So I try to sign up for mailings and alerts and everything that lets me know when something fun is coming into town. So keep your eyes open unless you're asleep. All right, rule number 6, my last one, is make time for fun. And believe me, I love a good night on the couch, but it's really rarely a source of entertainment and fun. So, you know, if you find something, call your friends, buy tickets, put it on your calendar, just do something, get yourself out of the house and do it, or you'll blow it off. So these are the rules I try to live by, and I try to pass my passion and positivity on to my daughters. And I think through my daughters, I believe my childhood and family story has come full circle. So this is my daughters in the hearse when they were little. So one Memorial Day, my daughters went and they cleaned my birthday mausoleum all on their own, so it would look nice the one day of the year that was open. So I gotta tell you, like, that was a very proud moment that my kids would go do that. But they really, like, they're passionate about it, and they knew that it's a cool thing to respect the dead and go do that. So they did that. And then one year on Halloween, my dad stopped by my house, and he'd just been at the airport to pick up a body. And I, on that day, had to go pick up my daughter from school on Halloween to come home and change her outfit. So we thought, let's pick her up on the hearse, right? On Halloween, how cool is that to get picked up on the hearse? So we went, we got Lauren and her friends and her friend, Emma Gammon-Lee, and they got in the hearse and they were like, wow, this is fun. My daughter, I could not find her anywhere. She was on the playground crying hysterically and said to me, why do you always do this to me? And I thought, I've never picked you up before. But apparently she was not happy. But don't worry. She later learned to love the funeral home and all this stuff. She used to help my dad at funerals. And during her senior year at Downers Grove North, she and her friends drove to Lakin and they had their post-prom party in the funeral home. Which they claim they don't have any photos of, but I know I do. But they did enjoy some country living, and that's a picture of them together. And together, my girls and I love to visit cemeteries, so we're a little dark, but our hearts are full of life. And we all know that life changes. So in 2012, after my grandparents had been gone for several years, my dad and my uncle decided to retire from the funeral business after 115 years. And, you know, like when they sold my family home, I was like, hey, okay. But when they got rid of the funeral home, it was like, we were devastated. But we understood, and so we did everything we could to soak up every last. We had the last get-together with our cousins. We had the last sleepover with friends where my girls rummaged through the amazing attic one last time, and they had one last fashion show in the chapel. And then we played one last game of funeral home hide and seek. And on that day, when the new owners walked in and the girls and I walked out for the very last time, we had lots of tears in our eyes, but we had a million lasting memories in our hearts. So this is my story and how a funeral home shaped me and taught me to enjoy life and started my heart for fun.
I clearly need to learn your photo editing skills. Right?
Yeah. I
The-
don't know, the tape is pretty good.
Dude, I tried with like some sort of program and I wasted a whole lot of time doing
Okay.
that was awesome, thanks. But just to recap, so the family home was also actually the funeral home.
Yes.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So grandparents on the second floor, funerals were on the first floor.
Wow.
Everything was in the basement, and I lived 2 blocks away. And you know, in a small town, when you're 4 years old, you can walk by yourself.
Wow. All right, and my other question is, do your kids think you're funny?
So I think they're starting to. But they did take casserole one time. Oh, they took her on a bond field run. So.
Excellent name, by the way.
Yeah.
Casserole, yeah. Jean, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so, I don't know. But yes.
Yeah.
I guess they do.
Any questions for Laura?
I have a picture of it.
Yeah, you're. So, we're gonna hang out later and find out what was up with the picture.
It kind of looked like this Valley Doyle floor.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Laura,
What is the backstory of Casserole Jean anyway? How did she get to be the party girl that she is?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but
Okay.
we had a long time a white trash party, and my friend, that was her part of her costume, and then we lost her for a long, long time, and then we pretended that we found her, and then, I don't know, we just took her
How
on
did
a
you
trip.
find
and-
out her legs popped off?
That's my friend Debbie, she just figures things out, yeah. But it's funny.
I mean, is that a liquid?
Laura, what is birth?
Yeah.
Question?
Just take out the name.
No, that was Debbie.
Oh,
She
that is
always
just
loved the name
brilliant.
Casserole Jean.
I wish I
We kind of need to say it with an accent. Casserole Jean? Yeah. And Casserole Jean doesn't have an accent, so she's quiet. Yes, yeah, Jean.
I think that you said that Debbie grew up with you.
Oh, yeah, she
In
grew
your
up.
hometown, so
Yeah,
she's
and
just
like,
a stranger.
she was a bowling alley heiress, and I am the funeral home heiress.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cindy, I have to ask you a question, because remember I was telling you about, so this girl Laura Eboli, and she has a whole room in her house that has all Elvis memorabilia, and she carries this doll around with her, and Cindy's like, what? Who is
How do I not know this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Casserole is just in Arizona, so.
It's
No,
just-
I
oh
have a
my
picture of
God.
your office.
That's pretty
I don't.
Where is she tonight?
Yeah, it's been a
She should have been here.
Oh, she should have, it's been a long week. I don't have a picture of Elvis her because then I started business and so my tablecloths are all in there right now, so everything kind of got packed up and it's a mess, so. It's kind of sad, but it's fine.
Any other questions for Laura?
You started a business. Rolling.
I designed and invented this thing called a birthday tablecloth, and so it's a thing that you bring out every year on a child's birthday, and it has numbers 1 through 10 on it. It's all applique, and so on the first birthday, everybody signs the 1, and then on the second year, everybody signs the 2. So they have all these memories of their birthday. So cards get thrown in a drawer, but this comes out every year. So it's, the grandparents' names are on it. So MabelMabel.com. That's right.
Very cool. Who's Mabel?
I just love the
Just
name.
love the name.
Mabel strong and able to keep your elbows off the table.
Ah,
So,
there you go.
Table related, yeah.
Yeah,